All of you calm people out there, what finally made you absolutely lose your crap? In healthcare, you get yelled at a lot for stupid stuff. Where's my ginger ale? F that doctor. He's a butthole for taking too long, etc. But one patient crossed the line. She didn't like that I called the previous hospital she was at the night before to get her records so I could see what was done. Completely legal, done all the time so things aren't missed or repeated unnecessarily. And yes, she signed a release so we could do it. She then came out of her room and threw a full styrofoam cup of her urine at me. I dodged it by a millimeter, but it ruined a computer monitor. She then said, "I'ma leave here and F up your family." Done! I absolutely lost my mind. I screamed for security and personally put her back in her room with the help of every tech and nurse in the emergency department. 4-point restrained her for her out-of-control behavior that was a danger to the staff and called the police. Once we got the records from the previous hospital, we found out she pulled the same act to a lesser degree the night before. After she was medically cleared, the police took her to jail, and my final words to her were, "Good luck in the clink. They love the urinators there." She was charged with battery and given jail time for that and multiple parole violations. Yeah, let me catch someone throwing or spitting any type of bodily fluid at me, and I'd probably flip out like I never have before. The amount of disrespect involved with doing something like that is probably the highest form of disrespect you can show someone. You are pretty much telling the person you're doing that to that you are equivalent to a bug on the wall. Yeah, f*** that man. It's always felt like my parents never wanted me. I was a surprise honeymoon baby born 9 months and a day after their wedding, and I was regularly screamed at for anything I did until I just started hiding. I was called the practice child my whole life. My younger siblings got way more love and attention, etc. In my teens, they started taking in strays. If any neighborhood kids didn't want to go home, they could just be at our house all the time. Effectively, my mother would take my friends away from me to be her friends instead. One of which was a kid who picked on me constantly from the time I was 11. I guess they had that in common. That guy was kicked out of his dad's house and his mom's house when he was 20, so my parents took him in permanently. That killed me. But I always wanted their approval, so I was always calm and agreeable, always desperately trying to figure out how to get them to love me, so I went along with it. Years later, I'm married and have a son. This guy still lives with my parents. They continue to coddle and make excuses for him while criticizing me for whatever they feel like. One day we're all at my parents' house and my son is being a goofy 2-year-old, which annoys the man-child living there. So he gets furious, picks my son up by his ankle and spanks him. My parents claim not to have seen it. We went home. I couldn't sleep that night because I was so upset. The next morning I made sure the guy and my mom would be at home and I went to confront them with my wife. I dumped everything I had been putting up with on them for about an hour, including asking how my mom could allow this jerk to hit my son. She maintained that it didn't happen, so I went through the roof. I ended up crying because of all the pent-up emotion, so my fantastic wife took over. She said we wouldn't be coming back if the guy still lived there, so he yelled that he would move out and he stormed off after saying he didn't have to listen to this. My parents convinced him not to move out shortly after we left. My mother expressed how disappointed she was that I didn't come to have a conversation and only came to dump on them. That was her big takeaway from everything I said, that I wasn't being fair to them. We went to counseling with them later, for months. It validated everything I had felt, but they never stopped lying and being defensive. One counselor said we should be on Dr. Phil. The other counselor said my mom is incapable of empathy. Both counselors called my parents delusional. But of course, my parents didn't take any of that seriously. At one point, my dad asked me, who does he think he is to judge us like that? As if he forgot that that's their job. Haven't spoken with them in almost a year, and life is so much better. Yeah, this is one of those situations where you have to realize that even though they are your blood, you are likely better off without them. Just because you are blood, it doesn't mean that you have to appease them and enable their crappy behavior. In my experience, it's better to cut ties, move on, and create good memories and experiences with the people around you that you already have. I'm generally extremely composed in terms of getting upset. 99% of the time, I have no idea how to publicly express frustration or anger, so I just grin and bear it. When the following happened, I was about 19 or 20, I think, and very awkwardly composed yet very deferential towards authority, very ready to follow orders. At the time, I had a part-time job at a supermarket during college, and we had a new manager at one point. The dude got there through connections with his brother, who was pretty high up in corporate. The store was steadily growing worse under the new manager and was only held up by employees who knew their crap. One evening shift after months of BS. We were once again understaffed during the 1730 to 1830 post-work shopping rush. It was extraordinarily busy that evening, making the situation even more frustrating and stressful, with only 2 out of the possible 4 cashiers working their butts off to counter the ever-growing lines of ever-frustrated customers. I think I was having dinner as I also had the afternoon shift in the break room where that butthead of a manager was just lazing about, and I was constantly called back to the store to help people the 2 other kids who were there couldn't handle. All while there was no one on the shop floor, where other chores were waiting to be done as well as customers with questions. I think at one point, as I went back to the break room, he asked me to do something. I'm not sure what it was exactly, but at that point I snapped and exploded, shouting loud enough for probably half the shop to hear in a way that I never do. I was just shouting that he just sat there on his butt, reading the paper while too few people were trying to do much, and that he should haul himself on the shop floor to help us the heck out for once. Some light swearing might have been involved. Before he could respond, I stomped out back, put on my game face, and continued helping customers. I can't even recall whether my once-in-a-lifetime outburst really did anything except surprise a few coworkers that I was capable of flipping out like that. The manager might have just pretended it never happened. But holy crap, did it feel good to do that? Let me tell you, it was a good day when that Dumbo was actually out of there. Lived with 4 people in college, a 2-bedroom with 2 of us sharing rooms. My roomie was awesome, but we only had 3. Enter Justin. Justin was a hot crap sandwich topped with a drug record and other various hobbies deemed by society as criminal activity. These crappy traits aside, the roomie staying in the smaller room couldn't afford half the rent and knew Justin's girlfriend, so he moved in, much to my protest. He hated me for calling him on his BS, and I hated him for, well, read above. I don't judge other women when they date buttholes, but I was also friends with his girlfriend, and she was severely mistreated by him verbally and possibly physically. He's a weakling with weak muscles, they were vanity muscles, and could barely defend himself. Fast forward to the 3rd week that he's put off trash duty. First 2 weeks we covered for him. On the 3rd weekend he planned a trip up north to drink with his frat buddies and didn't want to hang with gals, so I get it. But we told him he has to do the trash first. Saturday, I wake up at 8 a.m., early for college kids. I see duffel bags in the living room and he walks in to grab the last one and leave for his trip. Trash still spilling over. He makes an excuse he is too busy and will get it when he gets back 3 days later. Yeah, right. I stand to stop him from leaving, and admittedly I'm a tall woman at 5 feet 11 inches and was skinny at the time, but still stronger than this little twig, much to his anger. He tries to push me out of the way and I put my hand to his face, knowing it'll get him to swing. And sure enough, he slapped me and called me a bee, claiming that by not moving I made him do that. Well, right after he finished that sentence, I sent my fist through, not at, but through his face, broke his orbital bone on his right side of his skull, and fractured the nose. He looked like hamburger face for the whole frat weekend after the urgent care trip, and never turned me in. Claimed he fell skiing because he never could admit a girl kicked his butt. The joke was on him, though. By the time he got back, myself and his then ex-girlfriend had spread the word, and he never lived it down entirely. To this day, it's in my top 3 proudest moments. I hate violence, but I love when I get to stick it to a monster and cause them a life of shame. Hell yeah, I love to see or hear stuff like this where a dude who is full of himself gets humbled very quickly, especially when it's by someone he perceives to be weaker than him. Hope you enjoyed that massive dose of a reality check, buddy. My son was maybe 8 months old and had recently diagnosed as profoundly deaf. Deaf kids will often inhale to make vibrations and noise that they can somewhat hear for stimulation. We were on pins and needles as I had just lost my job, and our insurance and the cochlear implant surgery was going to cost us $170,000. We'd have to sell the house and one of the cars. We needed a break, and our in-laws took us to the food court at a local mall. Our boy started to inhale and gasp. "He needs to be taught a lesson," a large 20-year-old said, not so quietly, to her friends at the table next to us. I rarely curse in public and am generally non-confrontational, but a stream of insulting profanity issued from my mouth for a good 10 minutes that would have put a sailor to shame. I found I couldn't stop, and it got on the verge of insanity. I insulted her, her mother, her largeness, and her pinch-faced friends. I launched into her smell, how big she was, how she'd only be able to reproduce with a blind, drunk moron with a death wish, as she was nastier than the devil's butthole on fire with the crap of hell. And it only progressed from there. The Marine drill instructor from Full Metal Jacket would have told me to tone it down a bit. I told her he was deaf and that we couldn't stop it, and this was a damn food court in the middle of nowhere in the South where only morons lived. The food court was silent and all the eyes were upon us, and then it progressed from there. She got up and left crying. I can honestly say the whole rant was involuntary, like a huge boil popping and draining in a torrent. I had never done anything like this before and have not done it since. I feel bad for her to this day. Dude, this is exactly why I always tell people to not just say whatever they want to people out in public. You have no idea what they're going through or why something is happening that may annoy you. In this instance, I'd say the woman got what she deserved. She should have kept her mouth shut, like it's a hospital full of sick people and is probably the last place you should be judging someone or their kids. What OP said was a bit harsh, but I hope she learned her lesson. I worked at a diner with an open kitchen. You can see us, and we can see you. I'm the only cook during the lunch rush. That afternoon, I hear a lady shout, "Hey!" I look over, and a lady sitting in a booth points at me and then does a very condescending "come here" motion with her finger. I thought something was wrong with her food, so I decide I can run out of the kitchen, leaving 4 orders on the grill, and see what I need to fix. She has no food on her table. She holds her blue soda cup out to me and asks, "What is this?" I say, excuse me? Her, "Why is my root beer in a soda cup and not a mug?" Me, I don't know, I'm just the cook." Her, "Oh great, another effing idiot in this freaking place who doesn't know anything." She then proceeds to chew me out, because I, the cook, do not know why the server gave her root beer in a cup. We have special root beer mugs, but the servers couldn't find them, someone misplaced them. I apologize and head back into the kitchen while she's loudly talking crap about me to the next booth to find that all of my orders are ruined and more had been coming in. It's already stressful working in a kitchen, and that was the last straw. I went in back, started screaming and kicking the crap out of the walk-in cooler. When I went back out, everyone was quiet and avoided eye contact, even the lady with the issues. Still looked pretty mad though. I rushed through the orders and thank God she left without saying anything. I didn't get in trouble though, since my manager was serving and had to deal with her as well. He understood. Yep, any job that requires the possibility of dealing with Karens, I would never be able to handle. I consider myself a calm dude, but if someone talked to me like that, I'm saying my piece and walking out, assuming I'd be fired on the spot. I have 3 things that will make me lose my cool. Rude people, not just a little rude, but the "I'm better than you and you're stupid" type of rude. Selfish people, and willfully ignorant people. I don't know what it is about those 3 things, but I absolutely flip my crap if I'm dealing with an extreme version of any of those things. Props to this dude for at least flipping out away from everybody else. So earlier this year, my health insurance got messed up. I started making too much money to qualify for my state's Medicare, so healthcare.gov requested a notification from NJ Family Care to confirm I wasn't on it anymore. So in January, I called them to get said notification. They say, "Yeah, you should get it in a couple weeks." It never comes. Unfortunately, I had forgotten about it until healthcare.gov sends me a message that they're going to raise my insurance costs if I don't get them the message in the next 2 weeks. So I call NJ Family Care again and explain to them the situation. They once again claim they're going to send me the notice and don't. So now after getting an extension from healthcare.gov about this, I call up NJ Family Care once more and attempt to explain the situation, politely requesting the cancellation notice. But the woman on the phone gets an attitude with me saying some stupid crap like, you know this is the cancellation department, right? And I completely lost it. What the F is your problem? I don't understand why the F you can't just send me this freaking letter. What's happening over there? Just look in the freaking file and cancel it. Yes, you I know this is the cancellation department. I want to notice that it's canceled. I must have scared the crap out of her because the next thing she said was, I'll go get my supervisor, who solved the problem in 10 minutes, and I got my cancellation notice 3 days later. I feel your pain, man. Dealing with anything government or state related is the absolute worst. I know what goes on too since I worked in government, and I know for a fact that half the time they say they are too busy, But in reality, they just take their sweet time. I think it's because in government jobs, there is no incentive to work harder or to get work done faster. Once their quota is met, they just don't really care. It is very rare that I speak to someone nice when it comes to stuff like this. Thanks for watching till the end, and don't forget to subscribe and like for more of these ridiculous stories. Love you all, and stay safe out there in that crazy world. Much love. Peace.